Welcome to The Peak, where becoming your best self is our goal. I'm Ashley Russo. On this week's episode, a collaboration that helps spread awareness on the importance of diversity in books, how the hospice team at St. Luke's navigated grief during COVID-19, and a shop serving up more than just a delicious cup of coffee. All that and more coming up on The Peak. Cedar Crest College has taken a bold approach to education, creating a college and curriculum designed for students who want to achieve at the highest levels.
Cedar Crest College was founded all the way back in the 1800s and has been making a big name for itself ever since. It all started in the basement of the Zion Reformed Church in 1867, the same place where the Liberty Bell was hidden during the Revolutionary War. Women in the region were calling for a higher education establishment to call their own, and that's when Allentown Female College was created, making it one of the first women's colleges in the country. Cedar Crest is a liberal arts college, primarily for women, dedicated to creating the next generation of leaders. Fast forward to today, Cedar Crest is located on a suburban park-like setting in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Cedar Crest College prepares students for life in a global community by educating the whole student at all stages of life and experience. Home to the Falcons, Cedar Crest serves over 1,400 students from 32 states and 23 countries. Since its founding, Cedar Crest has taken a bold approach to education, creating a college and curriculum designed for women to succeed at the highest levels. Cedar Crest College provides a quality education to a broad range of students. I'm Katie, and that was a peek at the Valley.
Cedar Crest College truly values diverse, inclusive, and equitable learning environments. Up next, an impactful collaboration spreading awareness. Let's learn more.
Books can help us communicate to each other in ways that maybe we don't have the right language to do so. Our world is richer by seeing other people's worlds,
including diverse writers, diverse storytellers into a mainstream world. Even if it's just a community out here in Lehigh Valley, our mainstream world would help every kid in the community thrive and flourish.
Reading is a mechanism to open doors for so many things. The goals of our diversity and representation book project are really to make sure that every child in the Lehigh Valley that receives a book from Lehigh Valley Reads has an opportunity to see themselves, to see their families, and to see their lifestyles represented in the stories that they're reading.
I think that it's really important that someone is able to see themselves in a book for a number of different reasons. But by far, it's to feel like you belong.
Representation is so important in reading and in education. It's really hard to strive to be the best version of yourself, to strive for greatness, to push yourself to be in all sectors of life and industry and community if you don't see yourself represented. So when you see more people that look like you, you're able to really connect with people on a deeper level, connect with yourself better, and have a much better understanding of your environment and your community.
Lehigh Valley Reads really found itself at the intersection of two of our nation's biggest issues, which was literacy and social justice. And this was our answer to the social justice piece. What was wonderful was the outpouring of support from the community. So Lehigh Valley Reads is powered by United Way of the Greater Lehigh Valley and PBS 39. And partners like ASR Media came in to help out, and we were able to create this amazing video that allowed us to get this message out and to really reiterate the importance of diverse books in our community.
I had the opportunity to speak to so many people in our community from various backgrounds and different types of communities, and it was so amazing. It was inspirational. People were able to share so many different types of stories that meant so much to their development, so much to who they are as human beings. Listening to everyone's stories helped me have a better understanding of myself, of my own community, of the environment that we live in, and why representation in reading materials and representation in our community is so important.
200 to 250 books are published per day. 60% of all covers have white people on them. It's one thing to have diverse books and people of color on the covers of books, but do we also have the authors? Were they written by someone that actually represents what they're trying to represent? But it's our job as booksellers to identify and showcase books that look like different people.
I recently wrote a book called Hey Charlie. It was released in September, October of 2020. It's actually the first of 5 series I'm going to write. Hey Charlie is about just having your own voice and standing up for yourself and speaking your voice. When we exposing our kids to a lot of positive and differences when they're at an earlier stage, when the brain is actually forming and you're actually sticking to it, we'll create better people.
There are roughly 183,000 families across the Lehigh Valley. My long-term goal is that every single one of those households has a home library for their children.
This project, the conversations that we've started, were just the little spark into continuing more conversations like these that are so important for our community to have with one another.
I'm really proud of our team and the impact that we've made. Up next, how St. Luke's staff and the community navigated grief and loss during the pandemic. Stay tuned. This is The Peak. COVID-19 created a new norm for many ways in which we live our lives, including how we navigate the loss of a loved one. Take a look.
COVID, and how did it change us and how did it affect us? Probably it's going to take us years to answer that question. Our initial response, I think, like everybody else's, was, wow, what are we going to do with all of this? Hospice care at St. Luke's, primarily it is about providing care to people at the end stage of their life. But it's not really about death. It's about trying to give them the best quality of life at that stage. It is about supporting their goals, and it's about supporting their family. One of the biggest obstacles that COVID created was separation.
Throughout the COVID pandemic, there had been a lot of limitations on ability to gather and to come together after the loss of a loved one.
A lot of the families had chosen to postpone services to a time that possibly in a few months that it would get better, and then it didn't get better.
A few people through most of last year were not able to have funerals, weren't able to travel out of state to be with their loved ones both at end of life and following their loss. So there's been a lot of loss of ritual.
What it has done is in many ways created some delayed expression. One of the things that I have seen most is that people feel very isolated and that they've had to grieve more alone than might have been typical in a non-pandemic environment.
Looking at COVID and what kinds of adjustments we would need to make, we really needed to look at multiple layers. We did allow visitation. It was limited to 2 people. More of what we had to do was to do things virtually. And so we utilized technology, the social worker, the chaplain, and they would go into the room with an iPad and be able to do a FaceTime, some kind of connection.
Bereavement is a very intimate time in someone's life. Our role as a bereavement department is to help people and hold their hand as they move through that space. COVID's allowed people to be very creative in some areas with how they can come together. I think in general it's just created a big opening for people to really say, what is my need? how can I get it met? What are the resources available to me in a way that maybe we weren't as deliberate with before?
People have had to find unique ways, really, to try to get through a pandemic, which all has a lot of loss inherent in it, and then also a loss often of loved ones.
We all, whether we lost a loved one or not, experienced a lot of grief. So I think this last year has, on every level, been a very large grief learning experience for everyone. And that's what we're there for everyone that we serve.
We took care of COVID patients and their families, and we did not have a single case of COVID in the staff transmitted by that process. I think that's a real reflection on how the whole team came together.
St. Luke's Hospice is more than a hospice. They care about people, they care about the community. And if you need them and you need their resources, they're there for you.
We didn't give up the pieces that were important. If somebody needed sacrament of the sick, if somebody needed prayer, if somebody needed connection with their family electronically, okay, that's what we do. Let's gear up, let's do the things that we need to do safely, but do them. And everybody stepped up, and I'm really proud to be able to sort of look back and say, yeah, that was really hard, but we did what we needed to do.
Joining me today is Diane Hummel-Spruill, Vice President of Patient Care Services for St. Luke's Hospice Care. Thanks for being here, Diane.
Thanks for having me.
Often there's a lot of confusion around what hospice care is. So can you help us understand what St. Luke's Hospice provides to its patients and their families?
Hospice care is for those individuals who may have a life-limiting disease or choose not to seek treatments in their disease, who basically want to live out their life based on quality maybe versus quantity. They have a certain criteria to meet in order to be signed on to hospice, but they really want the disease to take its natural course.
One of the significant challenges was that for a long period of time, people couldn't see their loved ones in the hospital. Tell me a little bit about how your team helped deal with those difficult times and the grief and loss that so many have felt through COVID-19.
I mean, that was one of the most heartbreaking things. And you saw a lot of it in those facilities that I talked to, the nursing facilities, the assisted living, personal care homes, was that the facilities weren't allowing their loved ones, the patients' loved ones, in to see them. So people were dying alone. And the St. Luke's Hospice staff really took on another purpose of making sure we could somehow try and connect the patient with their family and their loved ones. So we had staff that would go out specifically to do a Zoom call or to do a Teams meeting to connect the patient with their loved one. And sometimes we would be the ones with them to help them say goodbye to their loved one. It's still, when I think about it, it's very heartbreaking.
There are all kinds of bereavement services and support. Why are these services and this support so important for healing after your loved one is gone?
Everybody grieves differently. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And what we try to really do is meet the person where they are. Some people will take a month and they'll be devastated for that full month, and then you kind of come out of it a little bit. Others, it takes 6 to 13 months till it finally hits them, in a sense. And it's not something that you get over. It's just something that you learn to live with. And we want to be that support for the family, the loved ones, to help them through their grief, whatever that may be.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Diane, for helping us better understand hospice. And thank you so much to you and your team for the incredible job that you did throughout the entire pandemic and the care and love you provided for so many families across our region. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Stay tuned. You're watching The Peak. Our community is full of artists, entrepreneurs, and leaders. Let's hear from one of our own on why they love the Lehigh Valley. Welcome to Unscripted with Russo. I'm Ashley Russo, and I am being joined today by a brand new CEO and president of Good Shepherd Rehabilitation Network, Michael Spiegel. Michael, we're so happy that you're with us today, and welcome to the Lehigh Valley.
Thank you. I appreciate the chance to talk with you today.
Tell me a little bit about your vision for Good Shepherd and where you hope to go in your tenure here.
You know, my vision for Good Shepherd is that we continue to be a leader in how we think about the specialization of rehab, continue to be a leader in caring for really complex cases, people who have really serious injuries or illness, grow our presence so we become increasingly a greater regional and national destination site. The other side of the vision I have is that Good Shepherd becomes a leader in the country for training and developing rehabilitation professionals. So people will come from around the country over time to learn how to do what we do and how to be a better clinician and a better person in rehabilitation medicine. So we want to become not just a destination site for patients, we want to be a destination for the use of new technologies, and we want to be a destination for teaching others about how to do the things that we do and do them very, very well.
Michael, it's been so fun chatting with you and finding about your journey to get here. You bounced all over the country. You were an East Coast guy, Baltimore, and you went out to California, then you went around a little bit, then you ended up in Florida before you ended up here. So you've been in a lot of warm weather places with really beautiful oceans near you. Now you're in the Lehigh Valley and you're experiencing winter. Now, granted, that must be familiar from your childhood, but tell me a little bit about your first impressions of this area and the people here.
When I accepted the position with Good Shepherd, it was in March, and that was right at the start of COVID. So, we didn't have the opportunity to really explore the Lehigh Valley area. We moved here. We initially rented an apartment in Center City. Not 4 weeks ago, we moved into a house. We also live in Allentown. We bought a house off in Allentown also. So all of our learning, has been both through COVID and only since we got here. And I have to tell you, we love it. Granted, it's been a little bit limiting because of COVID of what we can do and what we see. But the things that have struck me the most about living here that I did not anticipate was, number one, how much history is in this region. I get really fascinated by driving around and seeing buildings and towns that are hundreds of years old and just wonder what that would be like. I become incredibly fascinated about Bethlehem Steel. We love the mix of Allentown City and, kind of this, and the city core and everything that wraps around it. And the other thing that I've noticed is people here seem to be very proud and positively possessive about the area. That's just kind of the way.
That's a great way to put it, actually. I think there's a tremendous pride. And what happens over time here, it's infectious. It's infectious. Yes. I feel like I'm such an advocate for the Lehigh Valley and why I fiercely love it, even though I was not born and raised here. When I speak about it in other parts of, travels or with friends around the country. Well, thank you so much for being our guest on Unscripted.
Thank you. This was great.
Michael Spiegel, it's so wonderful to meet you. We're happy to have you in the Lehigh Valley. We certainly want to be a resource and a friend to you in any way that we can. So
thank you.
Everybody, you see Michael around town, maybe don't confuse him with Daniel Craig. Just say, hey, Michael Spiegel, welcome to the Lehigh Valley. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks everyone for listening. This is Unscripted. Until next time. For the full interview, visit youtube.com/theptv. And don't forget to subscribe to Unscripted with Russo on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Seth Co is a Lehigh Valley coffee shop that works to create opportunities for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Check it out.
People with special needs are sometimes pushed to the side, but at Mercy, you're basically the star of the show there. And what we're doing here, we're trying to do a continuation of that, as you're a star of the show here now.
Seth has been at Mercy since he's 3 years old, and it has just been the best experience and the most phenomenal place for him. When kids are in school, they have all sorts of programs that help them, right? But once they graduate, it's like somebody cuts their legs off. We started this adventure with the coffee business because we knew we had to create some kind of future for our son. And it has been the best decision we have made and very rich for us. We are a business of people. We are a movement to create awareness. I want them to feel the pride of a job well done. I want them to feel accomplished.
Just a dedication to the job and a punctuality of showing up for work and wanting to work.
I want them to know their self-worth.
My favorite part of visiting is having career like my sisters, meet people, meet girls, be the role model, and God must be a role model. I sip coffee, Coca-Cola, lemonade, battery croissants, sip customers.
We want more for all of them. We want more for our son, and to know that they're valued.
Well, they really are. They would be an asset to any business.
Right.
I mean,
they can learn those skills in order to carry them over into, a career somewhere or another job opportunity and being accepted in their community. The response that we have received from people from all over, as far as Maryland, Stroudsburg, Jersey, just people coming from all over. We meet a lot of great people, but I also have people who show up weekly wanting a place for their child. So we are currently looking for a place to expand and to see, Seth able to be with his classmates, from Mercy, and being able to have potentially some place to go. This is why we're doing it.
Yeah,
So
I'd say every week I get a reminder why we're doing it.
Open your mind, hiring people with special needs.
Wow, what inspirational work. I'll have to stop in for a cup soon. I'm Ashley Russo. Thanks for watching. To learn more about anything from today's show, go to our website, thepeaktv.com. And remember, every day is an opportunity to be your best self. This is The Peak. While we're filming the Lehigh Valley. Welcome to The Peak. Planes, trains, and automobiles this week on The Peak. Portions of this program were paid for by St. Luke's University Health Network. The Peak TV is a production of ASR Media.
If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.
To see more of The Peak TV, check out our website, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and catch us on WFMZ Channel 69.